After 5 years of marriage, Shen Zichuan turned our marital home into a house with 99 themed rooms for his pleasure. 3. The models he brought home could have thrown a rave in our living room. In the year of our most unbridled youth, Shen Zichuan once said he wanted to become the most beautiful legend in a desolate, uninhabited desert. For the sake of the child in my womb, I chose to turn a blind eye. At the most inopportune age, we decided on the place we would call home in our old age. Later, he personally dressed me in a princess gown, only to take his meticulously prepared wife to the hospital to shave her head, but now, all just to coax a smile from the sick little girl. As I reached the front door, the entire villa was bathed in a kaleidoscope of colored lights. I knew they were experimenting with a new theme again. I didn't cry or make a fuss. I sat numbly on the steps, waiting until I was drowsy. Then, on the anniversary, the girl threw a tantrum to go skiing. Shen Zichuan forced me to the slopes to serve as Lin Yao's human crash mat. A coat that didn't carry Shen Zichuan's scent was draped over my shoulders. On the snowfield, Lin Yao deliberately slammed into me, sending me flying. A thick pool of blood spread beneath me. "Why are you sitting here? Is Zichuan up to his mischief again?" I begged him to save our child, but he just scooped up the completely unharmed Lin Yao and sneered at me. It wasn't until I got a clear look that I realized the distinguished man before me was Shen Zichuan's uncle, Jiang Qingli. "You've lied to me more times than I've had you." I gave a bleak, wry smile and said, "If you're hurt, go find a medic. If you delay Yao's treatment, don't blame me for disowning the child, uncle. Could you possibly expedite my visa application?" The baby was stillborn on the way to the hospital. The man merely responded with a low, soft He stood by and let his friend gleefully bet on whether the child would live or die. The next morning, Lin Yao stood by my bedside with her hands on her hips. I closed my eyes in despair. A basin of cold water was splashed onto my face, her expression twisted and terrifying. "Shen Zichuan, let's stop torturing each other. Let's get a divorce. Did you enjoy eavesdropping last night, Brother Chuan?" And I tried out a few new positions. He praised my performance and gave me this eternal vow jade bracelet. "Last night, we even used it to." I jerked my head up, looked at her wrist, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. The moment the doctor shook his head, I heard something inside me shatter. My brother saved up every penny, even skipping his own medical treatment, to buy this bracelet as my dowry. With trembling hands, I signed the death certificate. The thought of their utter desecration made my mind explode. His brothers rushed into my hospital room, pushing past each other, only to curse at the sight of my swollen body. "Give it to me, TSK, what a damn loss." Lin Yao narrowed her eyes, a crimson smile curling on her lips as she leaned close to my ear. "Do you dare to bet? See, I told you, Brother Chuan is a legend. Look how bundled up she is. She's absolutely precious about this baby." Chapter 4. Hearing that, I managed a painful, strained smile. Chapter 4. With multiple fractures all over my body and my abdomen swathed in bandages, I looked for all the world like I was 5 months pregnant. The next second, she grabbed my hand and shoved her head into the toilet, screaming hysterically. Shen Zichuan's slender fingers tapped rhythmically on the desktop. "Help. I won't do it again." He never once looked at me. Shen Zichuan arrived and held me under the bathwater until I nearly drowned. Then he tenderly gathered Lin Yao into his arms as if she were the most precious treasure. It wasn't until the door was knocked on that a contract was thrown at me. Watching him gently kiss Lin Yao, her face still wet with the filthy water, my eyes widened in shock. "Sign it. Just name your price, Brother Chuan. This bracelet must have been a gift from someone very important to my sister. If it means risking my life, I don't want it anymore. You're a professional skier. Not as fragile as Yao. A fall won't kill you. Keep this up and it just gets pathetic." Lin Yao broke down into heart-wrenching sobs, tears streaming down her face like rain. I looked at the voluntary waiver of injury assessment form on the floor and let out a bitter laugh. Shen Zichuan said nothing. Shooting me a venomous glare, he scooped Lin Yao into his arms and rushed toward the hospital. I met his gaze. "Shen Zichuan, the child is dead." I fought down the churning in my gut, my eyes stinging with unshed tears. "And what if I refused to sign it?" Not long after, Shen Zichuan's bodyguards escorted me to the hospital. He was stunned for only a second before bursting into laughter. They forced medicine down my throat, over and over, then pumped my stomach again and again. Trying to make me feel guilty. You think I'd buy that? Stop wasting my time and just sign it. My dear Yarrow Yarrow is waiting for me. It was repeated over a dozen times until I collapsed in agony. Uncontrollable sobs racked my body until I blacked out. I stared at him, my face ashen. Next door, he sat in the hospital room for hours, never once asking if I was all right. Shen Zichuan told stories to Lin Yao, who was bored during her 4-drip, making her giggle incessantly. He was afraid I would hold Lin Yao accountable. To coax her into getting her stomach pumped, he practically hauled all the world's jewels into the hospital. When he learned how dangerous skiing was, he risked his life to make me quit the team. I closed my eyes, remembering how he had spent a whole year nursing my stomach back to health. Yet now, for Lin Yao's sake, his forcing me, pregnant, onto the slopes, all that effort, completely undone in an instant. Shen Zichuan's gaze was icy, a flash of impatience crossing his eyes. Shen Zichuan walked over with a cold stare, meeting my red-rimmed eyes, his fists clenched tight. He dumped the entire stack of cash over my head. The impact stinging my face. Jiang Qingli, don't think for a second I'm too soft to touch you. A broken bracelet. I'll replace it with 1,000 just like it. Is that enough? I can give you more. I coughed up a mouthful of blood, letting the tears fall freely. Fingers clutched tightly at the collar of the shirt. Shen Zichuan, will you only be happy if I'm dead? Through the money. I saw my own humiliation. Hearing this, Shen Zichuan's body jolted as if struck. Shen Zichuan. My voice was hoarse. Let's stop this. Let's get a divorce. Then, he turned his gaze to my abdomen and let out a scornful laugh. If you ask me what my wish was at 22, how could you bear it? That child you fought so hard to keep. Could you really bear to let go? It was to be entangled with Shen Zichuan for a lifetime. I looked at the man before me, so stubborn and closed off, and felt all desire to explain myself drain away. But now, I'm truly numb. Ignoring his towering rage, I pulled out the gastric tube and left. Shen Zichuan's expression froze for an instant, burning with rage. Outside the hospital, Lin Yao, beaming with joy, invited me into his car. I'll let you go over my dead body. You have no choice but to endure my torment. Shen Zichuan held Lin Yao's hand tightly, not sparing me a single glance. He pressed down hard on my wound, forcing a cry of pain from my lips. The car was filled with the scent of orange peel. And he didn't give me a chance to get out. He didn't know how many steel pins were holding my body together, or how close I had come to death. I rolled down the window, and Shen Zichuan said with a cold look, and he had no idea our child was already gone. Close it. Yarrow Yarrow is pregnant and sensitive to drafts. I don't dare say it hurts. My fingertips trembled. He knew full well how severe my allergy was, and I'll never forget, last time I complained of pain, Shen Zichuan called me dramatic. I stared at my phone, my face expressionless. He swapped my allergy medication for vitamins. Shen Zichuan's face darkened, while Lin Yao giggled sweetly. Please don't blame him, sister. I wasn't feeling well, so I asked Brother Chuan to arrange it. I replied to messages, occasionally rubbing my arm covered in red welts. As soon as I got out of the car, I clutched my stomach and retched, vomiting until I was utterly exhausted. With the visa approved, I finally felt a wave of relief. After preparing over a dozen dishes, Chapter 2, in the brief moment I stepped away to take a call, Lin Yao swept them all off the table. Chapter 2, Shen Zichuan wasn't angry. He patiently soothed her, nearly suffocated to death in the elevator. I clutched my burning stomach. Jiang Qingli, you're playing hard to get in the wrong place. If you want to leave, hand over the child. Don't even think about running off with my baby. Back when my cooking was terrible, he wouldn't let a single bite go to waste. If you don't have the guts, then crawl on your knees from here to Yarrow's hospital room to apologize. Then, and only then, will I forgive you. It turns out people really do change for someone they love. I froze in my tracks, my body feeling as if it were filled with shards of glass, each movement sending a sharp pain through my flesh. I knelt down, numbly cleaning up the mess, my fingers bloody and torn, yet I felt no pain. The moment the words left his mouth, his friends erupted in cheers and jubilation. Shen Zichuan, his brow furrowed, pulled me to my feet. It was just like that year when our love was a blazing, all-consuming fire that everyone knew about. Are you that desperate, or do you regret leaving me, thinking no one else would want you, and now you're throwing yourself at me to win me back? We share a bond forged in life and death. My movements faltered for a moment as I met his gaze. Back then, I protected him with my life, nearly losing my own in the process. Don't forget to sign the divorce papers. He, who had never bowed his head to anyone, knelt for hours before the Buddha, copying scriptures in his own blood. Shen Zichuan flew into a rage upon hearing this, while Lin Yao moved to help me up. But on our wedding day, everything changed. But before I could even move, she fell straight towards the shards. There were no accusations, no arguments. We just quietly went through with the ceremony. Shen Zichuan caught her, but pushed me into the broken pieces instead. From then on, he found endless ways to humiliate and torment me. Chapter 5. Even the marital home we designed together was completely converted by him into a room for his sexual games. Chapter 5. Returning to my own home felt like walking into a seedy hotel. Every breath sent a knife-like pain through his back. He forced me to clean the instruments they had used. Qingli. Panic instantly seized him, cleaning up the mess scattered across the floor. But when he heard Lin Yao's cry for help, at that thought, he froze for a second, then scooped her up and sprinted toward the hospital. I looked at him with red-rimmed eyes, pain overwhelming my reason. I slowly closed my eyes. All right. Shen Zichuan had ordered all the servants in the villa to pray for Lin Yao. I can't live like this anymore. When I opened my eyes again, Shen Zichuan was sitting by my bedside, his eyes red. As I finished speaking, my hands trembling, I unzipped my padded jacket. The moment I picked up the dagger from the table, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Jiang Qingli, do you feel pain too? Why did you have to go this far? I would have acknowledged your child, so why did you have to harm Yao Yao? The slam reverberated through me, leaving my whole body aching. I was stunned for a moment. Lin Yao's child was gone. After he left, the assistant stepped forward. I wasn't surprised, nor did I offer an explanation. Mr. Shen's orders. You're to go and attend to Miss Lin in her hospital room. Otherwise, Mr. Shen can't guarantee the safety of that person's grave. He had already made up his mind that it was me, too, seeing me like this. He slammed his fist into the wall beside my ear. Jiang Qingli, you're as vicious as ever. My movement to turn away froze, tears welling up in my eyes. Even with a numb heart, I couldn't hold back the tears. Let him do as he pleases. Shen Zichuan, how can you say you haven't been cruel to me? I went to the cemetery and bought a grave plot for the child, right next to his. To comfort Lin Yao, Shen Zichuan specially organized an auction for her. I knelt there for a long time, until I heard footsteps approaching from behind. By the time I came to my senses, I was already at the scene. Shen Zichuan held Lin Yao, his words dripping with feigned compliance as he said. Shen Zichuan held Lin Yao on his lap, drawing envious looks from everyone around. So your idea of whatever is to come and protect him yourself. Jiang Qingli, what do you take me for, a plaything? Meanwhile, I, the legitimate wife, became the target of public ridicule. He shoved Lin Yao aside and, with a vicious yank, hauled me to my feet. Yao is so well behaved and kind. As a reward today, you can bid on anything you like, including those Buddhist artifacts you adore, since you're so determined to protect him. Let's see if you can. The auction turned into Lin Yao's personal shopping spree. When she glanced my way, her eyes were brimming with smug triumph. In my frantic struggle, my wig came loose and fell. I was completely absorbed in my phone, oblivious to Shen Zichuan's darkening expression. Lin Yao covered her eyes and screamed, while Shen Zichuan pressed his hand against the back of my neck, pinning me against the tombstone. I couldn't understand why he was so angry. Look at you. How could you even think of being buried with him? Do you really believe he'd still love you? That was until Lin Yao sat down beside me, a strange smile playing on her lips. I stared at the scattered tombstones and bit my lower lip until it bled. Sis, put the phone away. You're going to want to see the next lot. I did love him, but he was my own brother. I looked up in confusion, my mind went blank, and my blood ran cold. I didn't run away on my wedding day. I only stayed to see my brother in the hospital one last time. Who else could that be on the big screen but my child? I pleaded my case countless times, only to be locked in the playroom and forced to watch him with someone else. The next item up for auction is a Saria, specially cremated by Mr. Shen for his beloved. He paid me no mind, gently patting Lin Yao's back to soothe her. As the host's voice rang out, my brave Yao Yao, don't be scared, Doesn't seeing her pathetic state make you feel a little better? My hands trembling, I pulled out my phone and called the hospital, only to be told that the child's body had already been claimed. The harsh, mocking laughter cut me to the core. I shot to my feet and looked at Shen Zichuan, who remained utterly unmoved. Tears streamed down my face in silence as I traced the centipede-like scar on the back of my head. This was no sacred relic, it was clearly a bead polished from the bone of a fetus. My heart felt like it was being torn apart by a blunt knife. It wasn't until the bidding began. I suffered a fractured skull protecting him, enduring 18 stitches without a single cry of pain. My hand trembled as I raised the bidding paddle, my voice choked with emotion. I didn't even protest when the beautiful hair I was so proud of was shaved clean off. 10 million. All that effort ended up being a double-edged sword turned against me. Shen Zichuan was taken aback, his expression complex, noticing my movement, his hand, hanging by his side, clenched into a fist. A flash of venom crossed Lin Yaro's eyes as she forced out a few tears. Lin Yaro was the first to step forward and hug me, her eyes brimming with tears. Brother Chuan. How could my sister be competing with me? Have you forgotten about our child? It's all my fault. Sis, I shouldn't have made fun of you. I'm so sorry. Without a second thought, Shen Zichuan raised his paddle, his expression full of indulgence. After she finished speaking, she leaned close to my ear and whispered, 30 million. I did it on purpose that day on the slopes. Your child deserved to die. 40 million. My hands were clenched so tightly my knuckles were white. And a cold sweat soaked through my clothes. No, no, please, I beg you, light the sky lantern. In an instant, it felt like a thunderbolt had struck the crown of my head, weakly pleading with Shen Zichuan. Shen Zichuan, please, give it to me. Don't you know, that's our child. Chapter 3, Shen Zichuan's brow furrowed tightly. He paused, seeing Lin Yaro's tear-streaked face. Chapter 3, then shook me off with disgust. My head was ringing as I rushed toward her. Jiang Qingli, there's a limit to your lies. Your child is perfectly fine. You'll stoop to any low to snatch Yaroro's things. Lin Yaro covered her ear, tears streaming down her face, and accused me to Shen Zichuan of biting her. But I hadn't even touched her. That's not true. My child has long since. Please, you have to believe me. Shen Zichuan flew into a rage and slapped me across the face. The guests all began cursing me for ruining their good time. My ear was buzzing, and a metallic taste of blood rose in my throat. He found me too noisy and ordered his men to throw me out. The firelight illuminated the scene as Shen Zichuan clutched the group photo in his hand. He turned and put his arm around a smug Lin Yaro, continuing their shopping spree. Consider this my greeting to him today. It wasn't until the auction was nearing its end that someone burst through the door and shouted anxiously. He ordered his men to blow the entire grave sky high. It's a mistake. The wrong fetal remains were cremated. Not a single speck of ash remained. Chapter 6, I screamed hysterically, consumed by flames and reduced to ashes in an instant. Chapter 6, I lunged at him like a madman, but Shen Zichuan yanked me back. 5, you're insane. Shen Zichuan stood frozen in place, disbelief flashing in his eyes. I collapsed to the ground, utterly drained, with no strength left to even struggle. What did you say? That's my brother, the simpleton who raised me, my only family. Why would he do this to me? The man at the head spoke with an awkward, sheepish air. I must be out of my mind. The fetal remains were cremated by mistake. That wasn't the Buddha's child. Someone must have switched them. We only just found out ourselves. 1,000 words from me can't compare to a single one from Lin Yaro. Then, whose child is on the altar? The truth is right in front of him. Why won't he even bother to verify it? As he spoke these words, Shen Zichuan's eyes reddened and his lips trembled. Am I just supposed to die? Sensing the situation was turning sour, Lin Yaro linked her arm with Shen Zichuan's. My throat burned with a tearing pain. I let out a hollow laugh and fell backward. Brother Chuan, maybe the hospital made a mistake. Sister's baby is perfectly fine. She was even fine skiing. She's definitely doing this to get back at you. When I came to, Shen Zichuan was pinning my arm down with an iron grip. He knows how important the child is to me. He would never joke about something like that. The moment the needle pierced my vein, a numb detachment swallowed even the sensation of pain. He remembered that when he asked me to sign the agreement, I told him the baby was gone. Then he had the doctor cut a piece of skin from my arm and toss it in the trash. But he didn't believe me. Convinced I was lying, I knew he was punishing me, as I was desperately pleading with him. My heart ached so much I could barely breathe. I met his gaze without a flicker of emotion. As soon as the words were out, Lin Yaro was shoved away violently. It meant nothing to me anymore. Get away from me. He once forced me to buy them a little toy, then pinned the blame for hurting Lin Yaro squarely on me. Speak, whose child is that on the stage? He just stood by and let her jab me with a needle. No one had ever seen Shen Zichuan fly into such a rage. Another time, when I was pregnant and running a fever, I begged him to take me to the hospital. They were all too terrified to utter a word, but he thought I was faking it out of jealousy, just trying to ruin their good time. It's Jiang Qingli's. They're using the child to force me to clean up for Lin Yaro. At those words, Shen Zichuan nearly lost his footing. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he ran out as if possessed. I still can't understand how two people who once loved each other could end up like this. Lin Yaro watched his retreating figure. Her face contorted with jealousy. Even my brother, who I depended on for survival since childhood, is being slandered and trampled upon after his death. Jiang Qingli, what makes you so deserving of his love? With trembling hands, I took out my phone and dialed the long unused number. After starting the car, Shen Zichuan had no idea where he should go. Hello, I'd like to make an appointment for a desert burial. He went home first and checked every room. He's still holding out hope, thinking I might be hiding in some room, quietly crying. In the past, when I got angry, I would hide so he couldn't find me, only coming out after I'd finished crying. I would often find him with red, teary eyes, having searched everywhere for me in vain. After that, he promised me he wouldn't hurt or upset me again. After he had seen all the rooms, only at that moment did he realize what a bastard he had been. The entire villa, with its dozens of rooms, had been converted by him into themed rooms for intimate encounters. The memory of us designing houses and planning our future together exploded in his mind. When he saw my completely empty room, his heart gave a violent lurch. His phone rang. It was his assistant calling. Mr. Shen, I couldn't find any record of Mrs. Shen's travel plans. But I did discover a booking. She scheduled a sand burial 3 days ago. Also, she had a brother, her biological brother, who died on the day of your wedding. The assistant made a point of emphasizing those last 2 words. Crack. His phone clattered to the floor as Shen Zichuan dropped to his knees, weeping uncontrollably. This is all wrong. Terribly, terribly wrong. He already knew. He knew what I said was true. He just didn't want to listen to his own heart. He was afraid. He was afraid it was true, that I would leave him. He would do anything to keep me by his side. He lived each day in anguish and torment. 3 days ago, the very day his brother's grave was desecrated, he knew he had truly broken my heart. Shen Zichuan's memory returned to the moment we nestled together beneath the tree. Shen Zichuan, where do you want to be buried when you're old? I don't want to end up in a little box. He booped my nose and smiled adoringly. Then let's go to the desert. For a sky burial, will be the most beautiful sight in that desolate, uninhabited wasteland. We made a promise back then. If either of us ever left without a word, it would mean our feelings had truly come to an end. 6. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. When the assistant arrived, Shen Zichuan was sitting motionless on the floor. Mr. Shen, I've looked into everything you mentioned. You've truly misunderstood Madam. 18. Do you also think I've gone too far? The assistant pursed her lips, gathering her courage to speak. Mr. Shen, you've changed. You never used to let Madam get hurt. You knew exactly how dangerous skiing could be. Yet you still let her be Lin Yaro's human cushion. I'm here to resign today. I'm in love with Madam, President Shen. If you don't love her anymore, then you should leave her alone. Shen Zichuan looked at Aiting, clenched his fist, and then slowly released it. What right did he even have? Even an outsider could see how wonderful she was. Yet he failed to cherish her. He lacked the courage to open the thick stack of folders on the floor. Every single page was an indictment of his crimes. That day on the slopes, Lin Yaro deliberately slammed into my stomach, sending my body flying out of control. Extensive fractures. A week had already passed by the time he came to see me. I hadn't removed the bandages, afraid he'd think I was faking my injuries. The doctor happened to bring in a cotton-padded jacket, but in his eyes, every word I said was a lie. He looked at the image of the child on the paper, now fully formed. A flood of bitter tears welled up. He was filled with regret. So what if he had been deceived? I was the one who risked my life to save him. He was the one who swore to protect me, no matter what. Sun Zichuan collapsed to his knees, weeping in utter despair. Once again, he had lost the girl whose eyes held only him. Sun Zichuan stared at the envelope reduced to ashes in the brazier. Then picked up a charred fragment. All those years he misunderstood me. I still wrote to him every single day, just as I always had. The more letters piled up, the greater the disappointment grew. He knelt on the floor, his hands gripping his own throat in a deathly vice. As if that alone could stifle the heart-rending agony. The next day, when Lin Yaro arrived, he found the entire place in complete disarray. Sun Zichuan had personally smashed the playroom in the villa to pieces. He didn't stop until his hands were covered in cuts and bruises. "Chuan, what are you doing?" A sense of foreboding rose in Lin Yaro's heart. She stepped forward and clung to Sun Zichuan's shoulder. "Chuan, it's been so long since we've been intimate. I can give you everything she can. Let's have another child." Sun Zichuan violently shoved Lin Yaro away, his eyes blazing red with fury. "Get away! How dare you think you're worthy of bearing my child, when I was with him before? He never found anyone else so utterly repulsive. Now, his mind is filled with nothing but my every smile and glance." Lin Yaro bit her lip, her eyes brimming with pitiful tears. Sun Zichuan's eyes darkened instantly. He tightened his grip on Lin Yaro's neck, a bloodthirsty smile in his gaze. "What did you do that day on the ski slope?" Lin Yaro's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly feigned nonchalance. "What on earth are you talking about? Were you even there to see it?" She fell on her own. "She must have wanted your child so badly. She was trying to." Lin Yaro thought to herself that since I was already gone, there was no way to verify the truth, and Sun Zichuan wouldn't believe me anyway, so she began to embellish the story. The next second, Sun Zichuan kicked her squarely in the chest. The force was so great that she couldn't get back up. "Why?" Sun Zichuan said coldly. "I indulged you not because you were alluring, but because you were useful. How dare you harm my child and my wife? In my eyes, you are not worth a single strand of her hair." Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Sun Zichuan closed his eyes in anguish and gave a weary wave. The two men dragged Lin Yaro away. Only her heart-wrenching scream was left hanging in the air. 7. When Sun Zichuan arrived at the ski resort, Lin Yaro was on the brink of death. He waved a dismissive hand, uninterested. He went home to a dark, shuttered villa, the floor littered with pills, beer bottles, and cigarette butts. He lay on the ground in a pitiful state, yet, in his hand, he clutched a pristine, uncreased photograph. "I went to the Babylonian desert, but as luck would have it, the sand burial site was closed that day due to unusual weather, so I rented a local homestay here. I ran into Shen Yizhang, Sun Zichuan's uncle. You could have come to me. I apologize for Zichuan's foolish behavior." I shook my head. "There's no need to apologize to me. It has nothing to do with him, uncle." "What happened to my brother's ashes?" Shen Yizhang stood up and handed me a square box. My vision instantly blurred with tears. I choked out through my sobs. "Thank you. Ever since Sun Zichuan took me away that time, I never had the chance to collect my brother's ashes." I had just asked Shen Yizhang for help, thinking there was no other way. I jerked my head up. I saw, he raised his hand to touch my hair, but it froze mid-air. An awkward silence hung thickly between them. Uncle, would you like to come up for a bit?" The moment the words left my mouth, I could have bitten my own tongue off. Shen Yizhang shook his head with a smile. It was then I realized that the uncle and nephew, Sun Zichuan and Shen Yizhang, had completely different temperaments. After getting together with Sun Zichuan, I rarely saw him, and when we did meet, he would only give a slight nod. His aloof demeanor made him hard to approach, but it seems that wasn't the case. Just before he left, I called out to him, "Uncle, are you staying in town tomorrow? Let me treat you to a meal." I made plans with Shen Yizhang, but for some reason, I couldn't sleep that night. Outside the window, a little kitten kept crying. Our meeting was set for the afternoon. I planned to lay my brother to rest in the morning. Thinking back on my brother's life, it was just too hard. Sun Zichuan has never stopped having people investigate my whereabouts. He went through the motions every day, a soulless commute between 2 points. On this day, he had just stepped into the company. A message from Aiting came through. "President Shen, if you want to know where Madam is, you could check Chairman Shen's itinerary. I just hope you won't hurt her again." While waiting for his reply, he discovered that Aiting had already deleted him. Shen Zichuan's breath hitched as a thought suddenly sprang to mind. Chairman Shen, is that you, uncle? The fact that I could vanish so perfectly, without him finding me, means someone is working against him behind the scenes. After having someone check Shen Yizhang's itinerary, he rushed off without a moment's delay. The day we buried my brother, the weather was clear and bright. I knelt before the grave for a long time before finally rising, when an elderly woman from the village called out to me. She was quite advanced in years, but in remarkably good health, with boundless energy every day. Hey, Xiao Lily, there's a handsome young man here to see you. You can tell he's got a thing for you just by looking at him. My heart skipped a beat. Shen Yizhang, Qingli, hearing his voice, a ringing filled my ears, drowning out everything else. I fled like a startled animal. How could I not recognize that face? After all those days and nights, Shen Zichuan, behind me, grabbed my arm and knelt down before me. Chapter 9, Qingli, give me a chance to make it up to you. Please, I know I was wrong. Seeing him weep so bitterly, I could almost hear it. Was my child just as heartbroken in their final moments? Was it this same kind of agony when my brother's grave was desecrated? He must have been devastated too, seeing his beloved sister being mistreated. I jerked my arm away from his touch. Shen Zichuan, it's over, stay away from me. Shen Zichuan's face instantly turned pale. Qingli, I know I was wrong, I truly do. Can't we go back to how we were? I'll make it up to you. I was a fool for not listening to your explanations, for never believing you. 8. Shen Zichuan. I closed my eyes, pointing in anguish at the distant grave. You owe my brother and your own son atonement. If not for you, the child wouldn't have died. Wouldn't have been exploited by those with ill intentions. Do you have any idea how much the child suffered? My brother never did you any wrong, yet you desecrated his resting place. After all these years together, you've never trusted me. Even 10 or 20 years from now, you'd make the same mistake. The hurt you've caused me can never be undone in this lifetime. Let's not waste any more time. When we first got together, I didn't tell him I had an older brother. The gap in our social status was just too vast. Shen Zichuan was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, a golden child, while I was just an ordinary person, as plain as they come. People can say he was drawn to my looks, but they can't say I was with him for his money. I don't want us to part ways in disgrace. Even my brother's medical bills were paid with money I earned from part-time jobs. I tried so hard to follow in his footsteps. But I never imagined a simple misunderstanding could shatter our fragile relationship. When it comes down to it, we just didn't love each other enough. Such feelings, no matter when, are never built to last. Shen Zichuan stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. A wave of agonizing sobs completely overwhelmed him. He suddenly dropped to his knees and kowtowed. His forehead was soon a bloody mess, with dirt caked on his face. I noticed a rash had broken out on his face. But it was no longer any of my concern. Qingli, whatever punishment you see fit, I'll accept it, he said, crawling to his brother's grave and kowtowing. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I strode over and shoved him hard. Get out, don't you dare sully my brother's place. After uttering apologies 100 times over, Shen Zichuan lifted his tear-streaked face. He stared at me, his face deathly pale. The next moment, Shen Zichuan clung tightly to my leg, begging for my forgiveness. I couldn't break free. So I slapped him hard across the face. Let go of me, don't push me. I let the tears fall, looking around helplessly. The next second, a familiar scent reached me. Shen Yizhang kicked Shen Zichuan in the chest, causing him to cough up a mouthful of blood. He pulled me into his embrace, and a low voice sounded above my head. Are you all right? Shen Yizhang's face suddenly darkened, his gaze burning with anger. Shen Zichuan, are you even a man? Is this what I taught you? Shen Zichuan lifted his head with great difficulty, looking at the man before him without the fear he once held. This is my business. Don't you think you're overstepping, uncle? Shen Yizhang was the patriarch meticulously chosen by the Shen family, a ruthless and merciless king of the underworld. Shen Zichuan had feared him since childhood. Chapter 10. Being in the same space with him felt like I had lost all my strength and means. Shen Yizhang scoffed. Have you forgotten what Jiang Qingli said when she got hurt for you? I stared at him in disbelief, my mind racing. Shen Zichuan was crying by my bedside at the time, recording a video. He said that if he ever hurt me in the future, the conditions outlined in the video would take effect. things like divorce, assets, property. But how could Shenizhang have known? I had completely forgotten about it by then. Shenizhang led me away, while Shen Zichuan remained kneeling there, weeping as if his heart were breaking. 9. Sitting in the car, she watched the man with one hand on the wheel and opened her mouth. She didn't know how to begin. His gaze remained fixed on the road ahead. What did you want to ask? How did you know about that? Why didn't you tell me when we met? The moment I said it, I realized my tone sounded a bit accusatory. I know exactly what is like. I had to make you see the truth. I pursed my lips, knowing full well the harsh words were justified. The next day, Shen Zichuan, looking utterly disheveled, came and knelt at the entrance of the guest house. Who could have imagined the once high-spirited CEO would end up in such a state? Seeing me come out, he began banging his head violently against the ground, muttering apologies under my breath. I've gone numb. I begged him to believe me. I pleaded with him to save my child. I begged him to spare my brother's ashes, only to be repaid with nothing but pain. Heaven is just. I suppose this is my retribution. I smiled wryly. What goes around, comes around. I tried to walk away, but he grabbed my ankle. In an instant, the helpful folks at the guest house rushed over and started kicking him. How dare you bully our Lily? She doesn't want to forgive you, and you're still pestering her. You have no shame. He looks familiar. Quick, post his pathetic state online so his employees can see how low he's sunk. Shen Zichuan didn't flinch, letting the rotten eggs from the crowd hit him. The old woman hurried forward to pull me away, all the while fussing over me. Listen, girl, you should stay away from men like that. Why don't you take a look at my grandson instead? Upon hearing this, I merely smiled. Shen Zichuan's eyes instantly welled up with tears behind him. Shen Zichuan remained kneeling at the doorway until evening. Some of the onlookers, too incensed to let it go, started a live stream right then and there. The stream instantly drew over 100,000 viewers. About 2/3 of them were hurling abuse at him, and some even turned on me, saying I was ungrateful for such devotion. But I never wanted it. Not from the very beginning. I greeted the old man and went upstairs. It suddenly hit me how foolish I was back then, risking everything to save him. The way I feel now is much better. The video posted by the old woman quickly caused a huge stir online. Upon seeing the video, Lin Yao trembled with rage. From a face swathed in bandages, a pair of sinister eyes peered out. That night, the rain poured down. As she closed the window, she saw a dark, shadowy mass on the deserted street. Just as he looked up, I drew the curtains shut. In my dream, my brother grabbed me by the throat, demanding to know why I had tried to harm him. The child's face was also full of disgust, crying as he asked me why I had abandoned him. Even my parents, whom I had never met, blamed me for failing to protect my brother. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. Tears soaked the pillow. In my dream, I cried out hysterically, but they left without a backward glance. I jolted upright, gasping for air, a fine sheen of sweat clinging to my skin. It'll be okay, it'll be okay. I buried my head in my knees, hugging myself tightly for comfort. I crossed off the date on the calendar. And just as I set the pen down, a sound came from outside the door. I got out of bed in the dark, and a shadowy figure was faintly visible in the bathroom. Who's there? Ha ha ha. A horrifying face emerged from the bathroom. Lin Yao. How did she get in? Didn't expect this. Did you, Jiang Qingli? You've fallen right into my hands. So what if he loves you? Soon, he won't be able to see you anymore. And then, he'll be mine. I took a step back, grabbed my phone, and frantically started pressing buttons, not even sure who I was calling. You're insane. She raised the knife and pointed it at me. I'm a madman, driven insane by you. I've endured every single hurt you've suffered. She took off her wig, revealing a scar on the back of her head even longer than mine. I knew it was Shen Zichuan who did it after learning the truth. But for me, there wasn't a shred of tenderness or gratitude. The only thing left was the bitter satisfaction of revenge. A knock came at the door. I knew the call had been made. Lin Yao's expression shifted abruptly. You dared to tip them off, then I'll have to deal with all of you. The person outside kicked the door with all their might. She raised the knife, charged forward, and in the scramble to dodge, the blade sliced my arm, and blood gushed out. Die. Her intent to kill was so sudden, I had no time to react. In the nick of time, the door flew open. The newcomer scooped me up and rolled us both to safety. Are you hurt? He ignored it, told me to close my eyes, and walked toward Lin Yao, who stood frozen in shock. He subdued her in a matter of moments. The police arrived shortly after and took her away. Shen Zichuan arrived in a disheveled state, his eyes turning red at the sight inside. I was huddled in the corner when Shen Yizhang, clenching his fist slightly, pulled me into his embrace. Go on, cry. I clutched his collar and sobbed my heart out, wailing with a raw, gut-wrenching agony I hadn't felt since losing our child. It was a strangely liberating pain. Shen Zichuan's heart twisted into a knot, the pain so acute he wished for death. He couldn't bear to look and turned his head away, thinking that perhaps all of this had been a terrible mistake from the start. The following day, Lin Yao was charged with intentional homicide and corpse theft. It was enough to put her away for life. When I stepped outside, I saw Shen Zichuan standing downstairs. He remained silent for a long time, so I spoke first. Let's find a place to talk. In the coffee shop, I was the first to speak. You've hurt me far more than you realize. Last night, I almost died. As long as you're in my life, I'll never have peace. I reached into my pocket and handed him that sacred relic. You're the one who killed him. I hope you remember him forever. Even if you remarry and start a new life someday. Shen Zichuan's body trembled, his face deathly pale. Each word pierced straight through his heart. I didn't wait for his reply, but stood up and left first. He grabbed my bag. I'm sorry, Qingli. Forget the past. Forget all of us. If it were possible, I wish you had never met me. I walked away quickly. Outside, Shen Yizhang was leaning against the car, waiting for me. He saw me come out and opened the car door. I threw my bag into the trash can. Shen Zichuan sat motionless in his spot. The end. Story 2. After Shen Baiming became disabled. His first love quickly broke up with him. The family once again removed him from the list of heirs and drove him to the old mansion. Only I stayed by his side and took care of him. I exhausted all traditional Chinese medicine methods and finally managed to make him stand up. However, when he returned to the family, rose again, and was preparing to propose to me, his first love held a knife to her own neck. Choose one of us. If you choose her, I'll die. Shen Baiming immediately surrendered and held her in his arms. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Choose one of us. If you choose her, I'll die. And Qiushue raised her neck. The dagger she pressed against it had already pierced the skin, and bright red blood seeped out. She stepped closer, her tone aggressive. Aren't you angry that I abandoned you? I'm giving you a chance to take revenge on me now. As long as you choose her, I'll die right in front of you. Shen Baiming was defeated. He smashed the ring that was supposed to be put on my hand onto the ground. I want you, not her. He hugged Qiushue tightly, as if embracing his most precious treasure. At that moment, I completely separated Shen Baiming from the down-and-out young master in a wheelchair in the past. I knew that everything should return to the right track. I took the lead in clapping my hands, and the others, influenced by me, also clapped. We congratulated the newly reunited couple. The one who has returned now is the heir of the Shen family, not that disabled young master. A few years ago, my parents' company went bankrupt. The creditors wanted to sell me for money. But Shen Baiming saved me at a critical moment. Relying on the little friendship from our childhood, he let me stay by his side. I'm not greedy by nature and I stick to my duty. Rather than saying I was staying with him, it was more like I was an assistant dealing with his daily trivial matters. The only turning point was that car accident. Shen Baiming had a quarrel with Qiushue and had a car accident on the way to chase after her. The doctor said that his spinal nerve was severely damaged and he would never be able to stand up in his life. Before he could recover from the blow, not long after, Qiushue proposed to break up. I don't want a disabled person as my husband. Since that's the case, let's just break up. Shen Baiming pleaded with her to stay, but all he got in return was her resolute gaze. Misfortunes never come singly. After the Shen family learned about all this, they directly drove him to the old mansion and left him to fend for himself. Sitting in a wheelchair, Shen Baiming seemed to be completely broken. When he spoke, his voice was a little cautious. Lan Duo, will you abandon me like they did? I thought for a moment and shook my head. No, I won't. Hearing my answer, his eyes lit up instantly. He slowly hooked his hand around mine and promised, if you want to leave, you still have to tell me. I won't hold you back. I didn't answer and turned around to continue studying the prescription for treating his legs. I bought medicine and tried various treatments. We depended on each other for survival. In the most difficult times, the people in the Shun family withheld the living expenses for Shun Baiming. It was me who went out to work part-time to earn the living expenses and medical fees for the two of us. The young master put away all his temper and started learning to do handicrafts to subsidize the family. While I went out to deliver food, life was not easy, but fortunately, we could still get by. However, that kind of life would never come back to this young master again. The proposal failed. The relationship between him and me could be said to have returned to the very beginning. The old master of the Shun family found me and wanted to give me some compensation. I thought for a while, then give me some money. The old master of the Shun family was silent for a moment, then patted my shoulder with his big hand. "You're still so sensible, Lan Duo. Being sensible has its advantages." I nodded and didn't reply anymore. After seeing off the old master of the Shun family, I turned on my phone and continued browsing the rental housing information. I can be considered to have settled with the Shun family. If I don't leave now, something else will definitely happen. As soon as my phone received a text message about the transfer, the door was pushed open. Shun Baiming pulled Anchoshua in. He was used to not knocking on the door, but he didn't notice the ugly expression on Anchoshua's face behind him. He waved at me. "Duo, Axu has a history of menstrual cramps. You're good at traditional Chinese medicine. Help her take a look. Her period is coming soon, and I'm worried that she'll be in pain again." I looked at her but didn't do anything. The corners of Anchoshua's lips curled slightly. Her eyes were full of provocation as she spoke. But her words revealed a sense of grievance. "Baiming, it's okay. Miss Lan might still hate me because of the proposal. Don't make things difficult for her. I'm really grateful to Miss Lan for taking care of Baiming for so long and giving him back to me. It's my appearance that has damaged the relationship between you and Baiming. It's reasonable for you to hate me. How can I trouble Miss Lan again because of my period? It's okay if it hurts, it won't kill me." As if she had thought of some painful memory, her face turned a little pale. In Shun Baiming's eyes, this appearance meant she was being weak but trying to be strong. For a moment, Shun Baiming felt even more heartbroken, and there was a hint of condemnation in his eyes when he looked at me. "Lan Duo, why are you so? I'm not very knowledgeable. Thank you, Mr. Shun, for trusting me so much. However, it's best for a woman to have a medical consultation on an empty stomach in the morning, so that I can examine her more carefully. Anyway, Miss Shun also lives here. I'll help Miss Shun take her pulse early tomorrow morning." When I said this, Shun Baiming fell silent. When he looked at me, there seemed to be a hint of doubt in his eyes, as if he didn't understand my alienation. It's a very cliched plot that a person is rescued from the quagmire and then falls in love with the savior. But it happened to me. I had always been afraid to show my feelings before. But after entering the old mansion of the Shun family, without that constraint and with us having to rely on each other, my little bit of love could no longer be hidden. I even thought that it would be okay to live like this for the rest of my life. He was also very attentive to me. He would prick the blisters on my feet caused by walking, and in the cold winter, he would put my feet on his stomach to warm them up. He learned to grow vegetables in flower pots so that I could eat more vegetables. But all of that was in the past. People always have to look forward. Shun Baiming and Anchoshua lived together. During the evening meal, the servant specially brought the food to my room. "Miss Lan, there's a family dinner downstairs, and it's not suitable for outsiders to attend. You'd better stay here and eat." I nodded and didn't have any objections. Just as the door was about to be closed, I could still hear the conversation between the two maids. "This woman doesn't even know her own status. She's just a young lady from a bankrupt family, and she still has the nerve to compete with Miss Shun. Miss Shun and our young master are a perfect match." They obviously said this on purpose for me to hear. I felt a bit helpless and really wanted to go out and explain, but at the moment, it was more important to reduce my presence and hurry up to rent a house. This room was still decorated the way it was before Shun Baiming and I left. I slowly took down the decorations I had bought. There were also a few photos of me and Shun Baiming, and I took them down as well. It's not a good idea to leave such things here. If Anchoshua saw them, she might do something unexpected. After packing up, there was a big box. When I walked out of the room and was about to throw it away, I was stopped by Shun Baiming. "Lan Duo, are you still angry with me?" Angry with you. I turned around, my eyes full of confusion. Why would I be angry with you? Mr. Shun has someone he likes and wants to be with the person he likes. That's perfectly natural. Shun Baiming was stunned. He seemed to want to say something, but he couldn't say anything. The box was really blocking my view. The servants around me glanced at me and just walked away as if they didn't see me. Only one person didn't leave, and Choshue stood at the corner of the stairs, looking at me with a proud and arrogant expression. Her words were sarcastic. I really have to thank you for curing that useless person. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen him. She got closer, her voice full of venom. But it's not enough, not completely enough. My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately reacted. I put the box on the ground and reached out to pull her. But I was still a step too late. She grabbed me and threw me onto the porcelain vase. Along with the sound of screams and the breaking of the vase, the first thing I felt was pain. A dense and continuous pain. Shun Baiming rushed over and picked her up directly, carefully avoiding Choshue's wound and asking someone to find a doctor, and Choshue buried herself in his arms and cried, Baiming, don't blame Landuo, she's just angry with me. After all, she cured you. It doesn't matter if I suffer a little. After putting her on the sofa and soothing her gently for a while, Shun Baiming finally gave me a disdainful look. Miss Lan has also learned to demand repayment for her kindness, hasn't she? Which hand pushed her? I didn't quite understand what he meant. I just felt that his eyes were very cold and unfamiliar. I shook my head and continued to explain. I didn't push her, I was trying to pull her. Shun Baiming's bodyguard didn't show any mercy as he dragged me downstairs. I was wearing a black tracksuit today. If one looked closely, they could definitely see that the damaged parts on it had become even darker in color, and Choshue was still crying. Baiming, don't fall out with Miss Lan because of me. After all, she cured your legs. We should still. Her words were like adding fuel to the fire. Shun Baiming was getting more and more impatient. He looked down at my left hand. Since you pushed her with your hand, then pay with your hand. I'll keep your right hand for now to take Akshu's pulse. I reacted quite quickly. I used all my strength to break free from the bodyguard's grasp, but I still couldn't escape. The bodyguard also reacted quickly. He chopped down on my left hand with his hand. I clearly felt that my bones seemed to be broken. I fell forward in pain, just as I was about to lose consciousness. I still heard Choshue's voice. Is Miss Lan okay? Baiming, ask the bodyguard to help her up. She's tough. She used to deliver food in the old mansion and was more resilient than an ordinary man. It's just a fracture. It's not that serious. Until I completely fainted, Shun Baiming didn't even check my condition. I thought all this was ridiculous. Just a fracture. Before, in the old mansion, after I finished delivering food and was on my way home, I was hit by a drunk driver, and my left arm was also fractured. I took the compensation money home and just had my left hand fixed. Shun Baiming had cooked a meal and was waiting for me at home when he saw my embarrassing appearance. His body started to tremble. What happened to you? Are you okay? After learning about what had happened, his eyes gradually turned red. Looking at my immobile hand, he carefully held me in his arms. I must get better soon. When I get better, I will never let you suffer like this again. But people's hearts are always changeable. I don't know how long I lay on the ground. My will to survive told me to save myself. I slowly got up and staggered outside. Everyone in the villa avoided me like the plague, and no one wanted to help me. I could only keep walking outside until I met a man whose face I couldn't see clearly. Save me. After saying that, I fell down. When I regained consciousness, I was already in the hospital. The doctor was removing the broken porcelain pieces embedded in my flesh. There were many of them, scattered here and there. Some of the broken porcelain pieces were taken out with pieces of meat, and they were bright red. Mixed with blood, I turned pale from the pain. Only then did the doctor realize the problem and quickly asked someone to give me more anesthesia. But I refused. No need, just take them out directly. I'm resistant to anesthesia. If the dosage is too large, I can't bear it. It had been more than 2 hours since Shun Baiming had taken care of Choshue's wound and then thought of me. He went downstairs to look for me, but all he saw were 2 maids cleaning the floor with mops. As they were cleaning, they were also muttering, "That dirty girl Landuo is so slovenly. She had so much red paint on her and lay on the ground, dirtying the floor. She still wants to compete with Misson. She should look at herself in the mirror. Does she even deserve it? I don't think it's paint, it looks more like blood. It's even better if it's blood. She deserves it. Shen Baiming was stunned. He felt that there was something wrong with his hearing. He took a few quick steps and saw that the ground where I had been before was covered in red. The amount of blood loss didn't seem to be just simple smearing. It was more like it had flowed out. He grabbed one of the maids and asked, "Where's Lan Duo? Where is Lan Duo?" The maids all shook their heads. "We don't know where Miss Lan went." Shen Baiming asked 2 more people but didn't get any news. Finally, the bodyguard reminded him, "Mr. Shen, there are surveillance cameras in the villa. You can take a look." It was like a flash of inspiration. He quickly went to the housekeeper and asked for the surveillance footage. He adjusted it to the evening time, when I came out of the room. Then when I met Nchoshua, he saw me trying to hold Nchoshua to prevent her from falling, but I was thrown onto the vase. As the vase shattered, I almost sat on the pieces of the vase. He was completely stunned. So, it was really true. By the time my wound was bandaged, it was already completely dark. I also met the person who had sent me to the hospital. It was Shen Baiming's uncle, Fu Baichen. "Thank you, Mr. Fu, for saving my life. There is actually some connection between me and Fu Baichen. If my family hadn't gone bankrupt, I would have been engaged to him originally. However, before that could happen, my family was ruined. Is that just all the thanks you have?" Fu Baichen's sudden words caught me off guard. Why is he not following the usual way of doing things? Shouldn't he be polite first, and then I would return the favor or owe him a debt of gratitude or something? But I still had to respond, "I don't know how to repay you for saving my life. If you ever need my help in the future, Mr. Fu, please don't hesitate to tell me." Fu Baichen let out a soft laugh and suddenly leaned in close. His breath carried a strong sense of aggression. I quickly stepped back, but there was a wall behind me, and I had nowhere else to retreat. His fingertips twirled around my hair, and his voice carried a hint of teasing. "Are you so afraid of me? What, are you afraid that I'll eat you?" Before I could think of how to reply, he had already stepped back. He returned to his previous demeanor of keeping people at a distance, as if the close proximity just now had been my imagination. "Next time, don't be in such a sorry state." After saying that, he left. The corners of my mouth twitched, and I felt a bit helpless. This uncle is really quite unusual. After resting for a day, I asked the doctor to give me a painkiller injection, took a taxi, and headed towards the Shen family mansion. I couldn't stay in the Shen family any longer. I had to find a different place to stay. I asked the taxi to wait for me outside while I went in to get my luggage. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the Shen family mansion, I was discovered. Shen Baiming must have stayed up all night, as there were dark circles under his eyes. I greeted him and was about to leave. Shen Baiming stopped me. "Where have you been?" His gaze lingered on my off-white casual clothes and finally landed on my suspended arm. He stepped closer and reached out as if to touch it, but was interrupted by a sharp female voice. "Baiming." And Nchoshua ran downstairs and stood between Shen Baiming and me. She took Shen Baiming's hand and said coquettishly, "Baiming, you know that I really don't like it when you touch other women. If you do, I won't be with you anymore." There was a hint of coercion in her tone. Shen Baiming gave in and pinched her hand affectionately. "Okay, I promise you, I had no interest in watching the two of them flirting." I took a few steps back, bypassed them, and went upstairs to my room. When I came back down, I already had a suitcase in my hand, and Nchoshua still didn't relax her vigilance towards me. But Shen Baiming forgot what he had said and suddenly grabbed the hand with which I was pushing the suitcase. His voice was filled with a bit more urgency. "Lan Duo, where are you going?" I stepped back with the suitcase and looked at him indifferently. "Mr. Shen, your life has returned to normal. I've paid off my debt to you, and it's time for me to leave." Shen Baiming was taken aback, and a look of confusion flashed across his face for a moment, but soon, he returned to normal. "I'm not driving you away. You can still stay here. After all, you helped me cure my legs. I remember your kindness, and from now on, you can be considered half a young lady in this family." I sneered, "Half a young lady?" I looked at my fractured left hand. Would a half-young lady be held down by a bodyguard and almost have her hand crippled? Would a half-young lady almost bleed to death at home and no one even come to take a look? I was lucky to be saved this time. But what about next time? What if his little fiancé used another method next time? I could die, and I'm someone who cherishes my life very much. "Mr. Shen, you need to think clearly about one thing." I glanced at Nchoshua. You're about to get married, and I'm a woman whom you almost proposed to." It was as if he had been suddenly awakened by my words. After years of living together in the old mansion, the feelings that had already been separated from family affection, he withdrew first. Yet he still ridiculously tried to prevent me from getting over it. Lan Duo, he had that look of wanting to say something but holding back again. Those peach blossom eyes fell on me, as if there were still some feelings there, and Choshua's murderous gaze also drifted over, and I immediately became alert and took a step back. Mr. Shun and Miss An are a perfect match, destined for each other. I was wrong before, actually daring to try to use the favor of curing your legs to bind you, Mr. Shun. But now I've thought it through. I wish you both a long and happy life in advance. I dragged the suitcase and didn't show any intention of staying. I didn't notice Shen Beiming's momentary distraction at all. After leaving the room, I looked at the sky outside, took a deep breath, and the shackles on my body completely disappeared. I felt an indescribable lightness in my body. I found a hotel to stay in. I planned to find a new place to live when I had time, when I was younger. I learned traditional Chinese medicine from my grandparents. In the past few years, while helping Shen Beiming treat his legs, I also helped a lot of other people, and my medical skills have improved significantly. Now that I have money and time, I want to learn more. So I directly found a familiar traditional Chinese medicine clinic to work as a doctor. At first, those people thought I was too young to be a real doctor and more like an apprentice, but later, when they found that my techniques were more precise, more and more people came to me for medical treatment. Dr. Lan, I haven't been able to sleep well recently, and my head hurts in bursts. Dr. Lan, I examined them one by one and my mouth became dry from talking. I lay on the table, feigning sleep to rest. A shadow fell over me, and when I looked up, I saw in Choshua. Since there was no Shen Beiming around, she didn't even bother to pretend. I thought you had more backbone. Why didn't you go farther away after leaving the Shen family? Are you still hoping that Shen Beiming will come to find you? And Choshua seemed a bit blustering and weak inside today. Aren't Shen Beiming and you about to get married? Why are you coming to show off your power to me? Could it be that he's having second thoughts? My words seemed to hit her sore spot exactly. Her eyes widened instantly, and she raised her hand to slap me. Shut up. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed. The people in the clinic had already noticed that something was wrong with her. She didn't seem to be here to see a doctor but rather to pick a fight. Some people had already moved closer to me in advance, and they just happened to grab her hand, saving me from the slap. And Choshua tried hard to pull her hand back but couldn't. She was so angry that she started cursing at me. So what if you stayed with him for a few more years? I'm still his first choice, aren't I? Can't you face the reality? You're just his backup option. In a relationship, the one who isn't chosen is the third party. Why do you think you can occupy so much space in his heart? The corners of my mouth twitched, and I secretly thought that this person had too much drama. The two doctors who were seeing patients escorted her out. Finally, it was quiet again. However, just after the lunch break, a group of people rushed into the clinic. The middle-aged woman at the front directly pointed her phone at me and started cursing. Everyone, take a look. This is the unlicensed female doctor who made my mother-in-law's high blood pressure even worse. I heard that this female doctor not only practices medicine without a license but also seduces a married man. She's so shameless. How can she have the nerve? I recognized this woman. Not long ago, she brought her mother-in-law to see a doctor. I noticed that her mother-in-law had problems with her diet, so I prescribed a medicinal diet recipe and asked her to go home and follow it. That medicinal diet was quite common and wouldn't cause any problems. Moreover, the medicinal diet takes a course of treatment to show its effect. It's impossible for there to be sudden abnormalities just after eating it for 2 or 3 days. I also remembered the people behind her. They had all come to me for medical treatment. Unexpectedly, at this moment, they all joined forces to accuse me of harming others. The viewers in the middle-aged woman's live broadcast were initially confused, but when they heard about the harming part and saw that it was in a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, they immediately understood. They joined the middle-aged woman in scolding me. OMG, are there fake traditional Chinese medicine doctors these days, practicing medicine without a license? The host just said that this woman is practicing medicine without a license. Isn't this just trying to kill people? I remember this traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Call the police quickly. This woman is clearly trying to seek wealth and kill people, I tried to explain, but the middle-aged woman didn't give me a chance at all. She directly told the people behind her to start smashing the clinic, go explain to the ghosts. It was finally the police who intervened to stop the chaos. Those who had taken action had to compensate for the losses of the traditional Chinese medicine clinic. The others were allowed to leave. But I had to stay at the police station. The female police officer looked at me. Can you show me your medical practice certificate? Many people reported that you don't have a medical practice qualification. If I still didn't know who was behind this, I would be a fool. And Choshua came to find me in the morning, and I ended up in the police station in the afternoon. Shen Baiming even called me at this time, and his voice was filled with accusation. Lan Duo, you've gone too far. Practicing medicine without a license and working as a doctor in a traditional Chinese medicine clinic, aren't you afraid of killing someone? Are you arrested now? I'll come to find you. There was a hint of glee and eagerness in Shen Baiming's voice. I was so angry that I laughed and hung up the phone directly. As expected, it was him. When I first treated his legs, I indeed didn't have a medical practice certificate, but as time went by, I had already obtained one. I was just about to explain that I had the certificate when I was interrupted by the middle-aged woman. Look. The person who called you knows that you're practicing medicine without a license. What else do you want to argue about? My mother-in-law is feeling very uncomfortable because of you. You must pay compensation. Compensation? Her live broadcast didn't stop. The news that I was practicing medicine without a license was spread on the internet. With the help of some people with ulterior motives, I was also labeled as a mistress. This is really shameless. I thought she was just harming people. I didn't expect she's also a mistress. I hate mistresses the most. My mother died because a mistress intervened in my parents' marriage and caused them to quarrel. In the end, my mother passed away. I'm going crazy. How can there be such a bad person in the world? I heard she's still in the police station. I really want to hit her. I have a relative who went to a traditional Chinese medicine clinic to see a doctor and was actually killed by an unlicensed traditional Chinese medicine doctor. The public was enraged. Many self-media people saw the opportunity for traffic and investigated my location. They actually rushed directly to the police station. On the surface, they were there to handle matters, but in fact, they were there to take pictures of me. Some of them even wanted to attack me. You're a troublemaker. Practicing medicine without a license and harming people. Who do you want to kill? Who said she doesn't have a license? A furious shout came from a distance. Several bodyguards in black clothes pulled apart the excited men and women. Fu Baichen walked out. He somehow took out my medical practice certificate and handed it to the female police officer to check. She has a license. You should be able to check the official website. There's her official certification on it. These two sentences silenced the whole place. The female police officer took the certificate and confirmed that it was valid. The middle-aged woman was also stunned. It took her a while to dare to speak, but her arrogance was not as strong as at the beginning. Even if she has a license, so what? My mother-in-law is still feeling uncomfortable because of her treatment. Fu Baichen ignored her. The bodyguard behind him understood what he meant and invited an old lady in from outside. The old lady had white hair but was in good health. She walked up to the middle-aged woman and started scolding her harshly. Are you so greedy for money? The dietary therapy prescriptions Dr. Lan prescribed were all aimed at helping everyone save money and cure their illnesses. You're a good one. You took someone else's money and then turned around and reported Dr. Lan. I'll ask my son to divorce you later. I don't want such a daughter-in-law. The middle-aged woman was so scared that she quickly grabbed the old lady. Mom, you can't do this. I'm doing this for our life. That person gave me a lot of money. The matter was finally completely clear. Framing, taking money to spread rumors, these were all overused tricks. Many self-media people were still live streaming with their phones. Several live broadcast rooms exploded. Those who had slandered me at the beginning started to apologize collectively. Damn, was I used as a pawn? This reversal is kind of satisfying. The young doctor was being kind and trying to let people spend the least amount of money to regulate their bodies, but that woman took someone else's money and started framing her. Fu Baichen walked up to me and blocked the cameras for me. His voice carried a hint of helplessness. Why are you always in such a sorry state whenever I see you? I stood silently in front of him with my head lowered, like a child who had done something wrong. I didn't know why. But I just felt very sad. Suddenly, a big hand landed on my back. Before I could even resist, I fell into his arms. Be good, it's okay now. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore at this moment. I'm not a particularly strong person. I always want to rely on something. I'm not afraid of hardship. I just don't have a clear goal in life. When I was with Shen Baiming, he was my goal. Helping Shen Baiming stand up was my goal. After leaving Shen Baiming, wanting to be a good doctor was also my goal. I clearly didn't want to affect anyone, so why wouldn't they leave me alone? I cried louder and louder. I didn't know how long I cried. When I was a bit tired, I was picked up by Fu Baichen. When I opened my eyes again, I was already at the Fu family's residence. Shen Baiming called me many times. As soon as I opened my eyes, he called again. Although I was annoyed, I still answered the phone. He started by asking me questions. Why didn't you wait for me to pick you up? When did you get the certificate? Why didn't I know about it? I didn't know either when Mr. Shen chosen Choshua. Shen Baiming's voice stuttered a bit. I misunderstood you this time. What kind of compensation do you want so that you can come back? I can give you anything except the position of Mrs. Shen. I was just about to retort when the phone slipped out of my hand and landed in Fu Baichen's hand. Nephew, don't show off with such meager offerings. It's embarrassing. Your uncle can give you much more. Before I could react, he pinched my chin, and Fu Baichen leaned in. The phone wasn't hung up. I just felt my breath being gradually taken away. All I could hear was Shen Baiming's shouting voice. Fu Baichen, why are you with Landuo? What are you doing, Landuo? I don't know how long it took. Just when I was almost out of breath, Fu Baichen let me go. His hand twirled my hair, repaying the favor of saving one's life by marrying the savior. There shouldn't be any problem with that, right? Shen Baiming is a fool. You'd be better off with me than with him. I thought he was joking, but unexpectedly, the next day he directly announced that he was going to get engaged to me. The date was set for a week later. It was as if he was afraid that I would run away. He took me to banquets and, except for his work, introduced me to the upper-class circle again. Diet, clothing, hobbies, those friends who used to avoid me like the plague. Upon seeing how close he was to me, started to fawn over me, the world seemed to have changed completely. Landuo, you really have the ability. The men you've gotten involved with are more powerful one after another. Mr. Fu is much more powerful than the eldest young master of the Shen family. What method did you use? Teach me, will you? Don't tell me it's just because of your looks. Of course, there were also some malicious remarks. I felt a bit uncomfortable hearing this and didn't really want to reply. Those women blocked my way and wouldn't let me leave. If you want to know so much, why don't you just ask me directly? Fu Baichen's voice came from behind me. He stood right in front of me, like a mountain, making those who were unfriendly to me feel oppressed. My wife has a gentle and easygoing personality, but I'm not so easy to deal with. When those people realized they couldn't get an advantage, they slunk away. I was protected again. There was a sour feeling in my heart, and my heartbeat was a bit out of rhythm. Fu Baichen didn't treat me poorly just because the engagement was hasty. On the contrary, he considered every detail. Early in the morning, he took me out, and surprisingly, he took me to a cemetery. Seeing the surprised look in my eyes, he smiled. We're about to get engaged. Even an ugly son-in-law has to meet his mother-in-law. He accompanied me to offer flowers. He stood quietly beside me and listened to me. I hadn't visited my parents here for a long time. There were so many things I wanted to say. I told them that Shen Baiming was about to marry someone else, that my life was relatively harmonious now, and that Fu Baichen wanted to marry me. I babbled on for a long time. The haze in my heart gradually dissipated. When I stood up, my legs were a bit numb. Fu Baichen quickly supported me. He bowed to the tombstone. Don't worry, you too. I will take good care of Duo. The engagement banquet was held as scheduled. Everything started as planned. Just when it was almost time to exchange the engagement rings, Shen Baiming showed up. Landuo, you can't get engaged to him. You said you would always stay with me. The eyes of everyone around fell on me. I handed my hand to Fu Baichen and didn't even give Shen Baiming a glance. Shen Baiming's eyes turned red as he looked at me. If it weren't for the security guards blocking him, I'm afraid he would have rushed up. The old master of the Shen family also attended the banquet. When he saw his son making such a scene, he directly came up and slapped him. Lock him up at home. He's embarrassing himself. except for this little episode, the engagement went very smoothly. After the engagement, I moved to the Fu family's residence. Fu Baichen knew that I liked traditional Chinese medicine. So he hired many traditional Chinese medicine doctors to teach me and took me to practice medicine with him. In his spare time, he would accompany me. The days were even better than I had imagined. He had a weak stomach, so I made medicinal diets for him to improve his condition. Every time I made the medicinal diet, he would hug me. How lucky I am to have such a capable wife. Lucky, it really was a bit like that, when I was seeing patients at the traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Shen Baiming came to find me. He was drunk, and there was still a strong smell of alcohol and tobacco on him. I instinctively wanted to leave, but he grabbed my arm. Lan Duo, why are you avoiding me? I'm drunk, I drank a lot today, and I feel so uncomfortable. Lan Duo, help me rub my stomach. I couldn't pull my hand away and felt a bit disgusted by his close gesture. I'll contact Miss An and ask her to rub it for you. Unfortunately, before I could make the call, and Choshua rushed in. Shen Baiming, if you keep acting like this, I won't want you anymore. Shen Baiming pushed her hand away in disgust. Didn't you already give up on me? You left so resolutely when my leg was injured. What are you causing trouble for now? I was about to reconcile with Duo, but you had to interfere and threaten me with your life. Now, Duo is engaged to someone else, and it's all your fault. The two of them kept arguing. Finally, the people sent by Fu Baichen came and escorted them out. And then it was quiet again. Shen Baiming didn't show up again after that. I heaved a sigh of relief and thought he had given up. But I didn't expect that on the day of my wedding with Fu Baichen. He drove into the wedding motorcade and forced the car I was in to stop. He walked up to me leaning on a crutch, his voice carrying a hint of pleading. Duo. Look, my leg is bad again. You have to help me cure it. You can't get married now. I just gave him a cold look and then rolled up the car window. The bodyguard got out of the car from the back and directly grabbed him. I heard that after Shen Baiming went home, the old master of the Shen family forced him to get a marriage certificate with Choshua. The old master of the Shen family was not satisfied with any of his children and was planning to focus on his grandson. As for Shen Baiming, as an heir who let his emotions get the better of him, the old master of the Shen family had completely given up on him. He had let me stay by his side because of the little friendship from our childhood. In fact, as long as he received proper treatment, there shouldn't have been any problem with his recovery, but he insisted on driving on that day. Now, even if there was no problem before, there was one now. What should this be called? The cycle of cause and effect, or reaping what one has sown? I always felt that neither of these phrases was quite appropriate. Fu Baichen hugged me, and his warm breath hit my shoulder. Aren't you feeling sorry for him? If you are, I'll take you to see him. He hugged me tightly. I felt a bit helpless. Why should I feel sorry for him? Don't you know that old saying? Feeling sorry for a scumbag man will make you die quickly. I want to live a long life. I had already interfered in Shen Baiming's life once, but I couldn't change anything. Since I wasn't his first choice, then why should I choose him? Do not do to others what you do not want others to do to you. Moreover, looking at Fu Baichen's expression, he was definitely very jealous. I patted his hand. Besides, his own wife will feel sorry for him. What does it have to do with me, his aunt? I don't even have enough time to feel sorry for my own man. I don't have the spare energy to care about others. Fu Baichen's breathing became heavier. I realized something was wrong.